Hi everyone, welcome to week 11, Organization and Large Group Process Approaches, and specifically restructuring organizations. I'd love to say it was so great to all be together and to see everyone, but the truth of the matter is I'm recording this in advance of our week in residence because I know it will be a whirlwind to get back into the swing of things. So what I will say instead is I know how great it's going to be together, and I'm really looking forward to lots of hugs and laughs and of course learning. So the reading in Cummings and Worley that I will be focusing on is restructuring organizations. The structure of an organization describes how work will be divided, and the design should consider at least 4 factors: the environment, the size of the organization, technology, and the organization's strategy. Additionally, organizations have traditionally organized themselves into one of 3 forms: task specialized, self-contained units that focus on something specific, whether it be a product, customer, or region, or a matrixed combination of the two, task specialized and self-contained unit. It's been my experience, and probably the experience of anyone who has been at their organization for a good chunk of time, that we've tried several different approaches over the years. We're primarily organized by product area, such as food, shelters, airdrop technology, and warfighter capabilities and protection. But where the organization has played around is embedding or matrixing staff roles within the product areas, such as IT, finance, and portfolio planning, or pulling them out to be into their own specialized area. So the most widely used organizational structure is the functional structure. The structure looks like a president with several VPs reporting to her, him, each responsible for a functional area such as marketing, finance, research, manufacturing, engineering, human resources, etc. The advantages of the functional structure is it promotes skill specialization, reduces duplication of efforts, enhances career development for specialists, enhances communication within the functional area, and exposes specialists to others with the same specialty. The disadvantages are tasks become routine, there's a reduction of communication across functional areas, interdepartmental dependencies are multiplied, which can hold up timelines, and accountability for outcomes can become obscured. The divisional structure is organized a little differently. In this structure, there's a president, but the VPs are organized by product or specialized unit. Within each product area are the resources and functions necessary to support that particular product. The benefits of this structure include recognition of sources of interdepartmental dependencies, fostering an orientation toward overall outcomes and clients, allows for diversification and expansion of skills and training, ensures accountability by departmental managers, and so promotes delegation of authority and responsibility, and heightens departmental cohesion and involvement in work. Some of the disadvantages to be aware of include the potential for using skills and resources inefficiently, risk of limiting career advancement by specialists to move outside of their departments, specialists' lack of exposure to others in their specialty, can put multiple roles on people, thus creating stress, and may promote departmental objectives as opposed to overall mission objectives. The matrix structure is a bit more complicated and essentially is a combination of the 2 previous structures with the added complexities that come with reporting to 2 bosses. The structure starts with a president, but then has both VPs of function areas as described in the functional structure, and coordinators of products or projects as described in the product or specialized unit divisional structure. The folks who are matrixed employees will have a skill set such as researcher, and therefore fall under the supervision of the VP of research, and then they will be working on project A, so will therefore also fall under the supervision of the coordinator of product A. The added complexity here is receiving performance feedback from 2 different bosses, being open to leader behavior that is comfortable with lateral decision making, and the overall matrix culture that fosters open conflict management and a balance of power. Some of the advantages to this structure include the adaptability and flexibility it allows, where some of the disadvantages can include ambiguity, stress, and anxiety. We all know how that can manifest in a group by assigning people to more than one department. Some of the other structures as described by Cummings and Worley include the process structure, the customer-centric structure, and the network structure. Process structure reduces many of the hierarchical boundaries, so it's sometimes referred to as horizontal or boundaryless. Customer-centric is fairly self-explanatory in that it is structured in a way that satisfies key customers. Network structure redraws the boundaries and links specialists in a function to a particular aspect of work, such as applying a logistical expert to distribution. Downsizing. This is the reduction of the size of an organization and can happen through several different methods, which you see listed here. Early retirement and incentive payout are two methods that we use at our organization annually, where employees who are eligible can apply for what's called a VERA, Voluntary Early Retirement Authority, and or a VSIP, Voluntary Separation Incentive Pay. In order for a downsizing intervention to be successful, an organization should follow some carefully thought out steps, starting with clarifying the strategy of the organization. The downsizing effort should be a way to align with the strategy of the organization after careful consideration of what that strategy is. Communicating this with the workforce and providing support to them is important. Assessing downsizing options such as workforce reduction, org redesign and systemic redesign, and making sure the right option is implemented is the next important step. It's important to take the time to explore which option is right for the organization. This can alleviate fears and eliminate the perception of politics and favoritism. Once you've assessed your options and chosen the right one for your organization, it's time to implement the changes. Throughout all of these stages, communication will be key, as a restructuring of any kind can be scary and morale is delicate at best. Which leads nicely to the next step, which is addressing the needs of the survivors and those who leave. The biggest standout for me in this section was the risk of folks experiencing what's called survivor syndrome, where the employees who survived the downsizing have feelings of guilt about retaining their job and everything that goes along with that, while their friends and coworkers are struggling with having been let go. Continuing to reinforce the importance of communication, at this stage it will be important to communicate the strategic goals and vision to show employees where they fit into that vision. Finally, it will be important to follow through with a growth plan that fosters organizational renewal. So what are some of the results of downsizing? You might not be surprised to hear that the research bears out that downsizing is seen as mostly negative. Additionally, the financials associated with organizations who have downsized report back negative results in terms of sales, assets, and equity. We are cautioned to take these results with a grain of salt, however, in the case that results were interpreted by HR who might already think of downsizing as negative, in the case that the financial sample could have been biased, or in the case that the downsizing Re-engineering is the final structural intervention I will talk about today, and I have the definition here on the slide. It's the fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of business processes to achieve dramatic improvements in performance. That sounds like a pretty dramatic definition to me, and no wonder, because successful re-engineering efforts require what Cummings and Worley call an almost revolutionary change in how organizations design their structures and their work. They go on to say that this type of restructuring identifies and questions the often unexamined assumptions underlying how organizations perform work and why they do it in a particular way. Of course, there are careful stages of applying this type of restructure as well. The first step in carrying out a re-engineering intervention is to prepare the organization. Defining objectives and communicating them clearly to the organization will help give the re-engineering effort a clear focus. The next important step will be to fundamentally rethink the way work gets done, and this includes identifying and analyzing core business processes, defining performance objectives, and designing new processes. The final step is restructuring the organization around the new business processes, and this will often include designing the organization in one of the ways we discussed earlier. Here's my reference list for this presentation. Thank you so much for the ability to contribute in this way this week, and have a great week, everyone.